We start with some gruff cowboy fella waffling on about the legend of a gay writer. The Ghost Rider. Apparently, this is someone with a damned soul who's cursed to ride the earth as a bounty hunter for Satan. And around 100 years or so ago, one of these dopes was sent to collect a special contract which was worth 1,000 evil souls at once. But turns out he didn't want to hand over the equivalent of a magical nuclear bomb to the little devil himself so he could rule Earth forever and ever. So instead just checks notes, turned around and rode away seemingly without consequence.
Okay.
Anyway, after the pretty cool opening titles, hotshot stunt riders Barton and Johnny Blaze perform in a local carny to make ends meet. Turns out JB has a special Latina girly friend with a highly distracting mole, whilst his daddy has no girly friend but just a bit of terminal lung cancer to keep him company. So after Roxanne says her religious parents are totally sending her away from her teeny renegade bae, he decides that they should run away together, yo. Until he's confronted by an old dude with a pimp cane, or seems to have a vendetta against light bulbs for some reason. And he worryingly says that he's been secretly keeping an eye on him and totally loves watching him ride. And before he can say, "That's pretty pervy, my guy, and me and Rox are under 18, so I regret to inform you that you're now essentially self-reporting as a grade A nonce," Johnny ends up selling his soul in exchange for his daddy's cancer to be healed.
This isn't going to end well.
Unfortunately, he soon ends up dying the very next day from a failed stunt. Cause hilarious cosmic irony in a superhero movie, bro. And now he's cursed by the devil himself, he has no choice but to leave his beloved bae just freezing to death in the pouring rain, whilst he totally cucks out and runs away.
Loser.
Anyway, years later, Blazy Boy's now a famous yet incompetent stuntman, given he can't even do his one job and jump over a bunch of trucks and shit.
You had one job, you didn't do it right.
Elsewhere, a trio of corrupted elemental angels who are in league with a devil's son called Blackheart and do love to suck men dry by poking their boobies for some reason, are trying to get that bloody contract mentioned earlier that would give them control over the souls of some long dead town and finally rule the world. Or some shit. Naturally, his devil daddy reckons he's taking the right piss, coming to Earth and trying to get his hands on the super special lost contract that would make him supreme ruler of the realm, because he's just some pussy old kid with terrible acting skills. But Blackheart reckons it's finally his time, yo, and he's totally going to get that contract, and no devil bloke played by a checked out legacy actor, currently bringing a whole new meaning to phoning it in, is going to stop him.
Yeah, you tell him, boss.
Meanwhile, Johnny is preparing for his biggest stunt to date, given he has a massive death wish and absolutely nothing to live for after the devil forbade him to have a wife, friends or family. Well, until he bumps into his old floozy with one heck of a mole. As turns out, this Roxanne Simpson is now an up-and-coming reporter, and he proceeds to just give her the stiffest, most random interview since that kid what announced how partial he was to aquatic test tube dines back in the day.
I like turtles.
Naturally, she gives up and leaves after she finally got backstage access to a superstar that could make her career, and he basically just said absolutely nothing of worth and totally doomed her to a 9-to-5 desk job at the local small town Gazette.
Fuck you!
But after being unable to stop thinking about it and that fucking mole,
Mole, mole, mole, mole, mole.
he easily completes his latest stunt, jumping over a dozen choppers, and then races down the highway to totally stalk and harass his old ex what he ain't seen in years. Which is apparently fine when Nick Cage does it, but when I bloody do, I'm apparently breaking every rule in the highway code and just cause life-changing injuries to a coachload of junior ballerinas. Gah, what a truly two-tiered shithole we're living in these days. Somehow though, she agrees to a date, despite him almost killing them all blocking traffic super dangerously on a friggin' motorway. But just ends up standing her up anyway after his hands start burning during the pep talk he's giving himself in the mirror. And before you can say, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot this was meant to be a Ghost Rider comic book movie, given the title character hasn't even appeared yet 41 minutes into the friggin' flick," the twat-faced director strings us along and draws things out even more by having the devil confront Johnny again, and then intercutting bizarre scenes of a waiter clowning himself by somehow turning down Ava Mendes.
Wait, you think I'm pretty, right?
Gay!
Anyway, Beelzebub says he now needs to call his debt in, given his own son has gone off the rails rather bigly, so he needs his personal demonic bounty hunter to totally nut up and go yeet him already. And given he has no choice despite constant refusals to comply, Nick Cage soon starts going full Nick Cage, as the devil starts transmorphing him into some sort of boneheaded demon bloke in fiery whiteface.
What?
And this bona fide superpowered Ghost Rider fella, who's finally appeared 47 minutes into a 1 hour 50-minute film, soon tries to confront Blackheart, but instantly gets murked and totally hung from the neck like one of them gender confused teens you read about on Reddit. But luckily, said literal bonehead is proper immortal, yo. So he promptly returns to smack a bitch up, and uses his special kink chain to totally yeet the naughty angel Gressel, and then goes on a nighttime patrol to seek out those up to no good. And before you can say, his first stop should be the World Economic Forum then, I'd imagine.
So that we penetrate the cabinets.
He intervenes in a mugging with a thug trying to rob a fat goth girl played by Rebel Wilson in her first American film role, and soon uses his special power called the penance stare on the naughty crim, which causes mortals to feel all the pain that they've caused others and thereby searing his soul. And before you can say why oh why couldn't you use that on Rebel Wilson too, and mainly for eating all the pies, and so we don't then have to enjoy the cinematic cancer of Brideheart 18 years in the future.
I look like the dancing girl emoji. I was just seeing how hard I could blow. Turns out quite hard.
No!
He ends up transforming back into his flesh and blood body with the face of that over-the-top fella what really hates bees.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Oh, my eyes! My eyes! Ah!
And later that morning, he meets a gruff southern caretaker called, ejects notes, the Caretaker, who tells him he can only transmorph at night when around evil, and will totally return to Nick Cagey goodness by dawn, and so he'll totally need the help of this mysterious rando to survive all this utterly mental shit, because reasons.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I'm a little lost, but fair enough.
Naturally, he can't believe what's happening to him just because he tried to do something good and restore his daddy's health by asking a stranger to use his skills to make him better, because that's what most people do when they take ill people to the doctors IRL and stuff. And given no good deed goes unpunished in this world, he's now stuck being the devil's errand boy for all eternity.
What a fucking liberty.
Though, for some reason, Johnny doesn't seem the least bit curious about how this gruff stranger knows all about him and his history, as well as all the lore of the demonic force currently possessing him and shit.
Weird.
And he recites more of said lore about how an old rider 150 years ago called Carter Slade nicked the devil's contract that housed all the souls that the Archangel Michael cast out of heaven, and that will totally give unlimited power to anyone who wields it, and just says that Slade went and hid it where it can never ever be found. Presumably in the same place as the Epstein files, and wherever they stashed Keir Starmer's Ukrainian rent boys after they set his gaff on fire a few months back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Allegedly. But anyway, they're both totally safe here in the church, because them demon things can't come onto hallowed ground and stuff.
Oh, that's a relief.
Later, Johnny tries to apologise to Roxy for totally standing her up, and instead spending his night riding his bike and getting super bony with rough men in dark alleys. It's steady. But naturally, she ain't having any of it, and says she's leaving and he totally blew his chance with her. But later returns after realising how literally hot and surprisingly jacked he is, and totally rubs her mole all over his face.
Disgusting!
And after he warns her that getting into a relationship with him is pretty dodgy and won't really end well when now he's a devil's bitch and bona fide demon bounty hunter, he further insists that they shouldn't be together in case it gets her into trouble. Luckily, she don't believe him anyway, and presumably just assumes it's about her hairy face blemish or some shit. And before he can provide his sources for such wild claims and prevent her from leaving town, he's arrested by the filth for all the murders that Blackheart's goons have been doing, and promptly slung in the slammer amidst a group of naughty, sweaty men. And although this may be Gavin Newsom's idea of a good time, it's not really for him, given he instantly gets jumped and smacked up for his troubles, as the Ghost Rider soon bursts out of his skull and has a bunch of corrupted, burly white men for his supper. Before telling the last remaining black chap that he's rather ironically the only innocent one in there, despite what standard crime stats would have you believe. So just says well done you for bucking the trend and totally escaping the hood, and heads off to do his thing. And I guess said thing is just spreading more woke BLM nonsense around the town and stuff. Elsewhere, Blackheart is off in a church intimidating a local priest, despite the caretaker specifically stating earlier that demons can't come onto hallowed ground, so wagwan bro. As the rider is later confronted by another elemental and races up the side of a tower block to go yeet him. But this ghetto elemental just laughs in his face and says you totally can't catch the wind, bro. Before Ghosty Boy immediately kills him by indeed catching the wind.
It was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Now that all the carnage has brought out the cops and local news journos, including Top Totty Foxy Roxy, she finally believes her ex-boyfriend, well now she's looking at a demonic flaming hothead powered by the literal devil himself.
Better late than never.
The next day, she goes looking for him but just can't find him anywhere, whilst the caretaker what loves hanging about in cemeteries soon faces off with Blackheart and his last remaining goon, who says he don't give a stuff about no stinking hallowed ground, because he has all the powers of his devil daddy and none of his weaknesses. Well, except the dodgy acting, I guess.
LOL!
And he wants that bloody contract thing right fuckity now. But the stubborn old git refuses to give it, so he instead goes after Johnny's ex-floozy, what he still thinks hates his guts, and probably mimics my incel mate Colin's special skill by drying up a hot girl with a single touch. After yet another confrontation, which ultimately amounts to nothing other than the realisation that the penance stare totally doesn't work on soulless people like Blackheart and Hillary Clinton, Blackfart tells the rider to go find the contract thing and get it back to him pronto, and then maybe he can have his holy moly girly friend back. So naturally, he indeed receives the contract from the caretaker by simply asking nice and politely, well, given Johnny made the original deal for good reasons, just trying to protect his dying daddy, and thus maybe God is on his side potentially, possibly, maybe. Or some shit. And in a shocking twist, what no one could ever see coming. Well, unless you weren't paying attention when this fellow was introduced staring down at Carter Slade's grave. He turns out to have been none other than Carter fucking Slade all along.
No way!
So the OG Wild West cowboy Ghost Rider soon joins him on his quest to face his old enemy and the devil himself for one last epic battle. Oh no, he's just leaving before they even get there, okay.
Don't waste my motherfucking time!
So after parting ways and Carter just heading off to die of old age because reasons, Nicky Boy heads down for his own final confrontation and promptly takes out the last remaining elemental by lighting his liquidy ass up underwater.
That's fucking retarded, fucking retarded, fucking retarded.
Now demanding the contract for the life of the Mexican mole woman, Blaze reluctantly hands it over and gives the power of 1,000 souls to the son of the literal devil.
Not a great plan.
And soon running out of time, now dawn is beginning to rise, Roxy tells him to pull himself together and stop being a little bitch already. Which he totally does, and then pulls off a final transformation into the rider and gives his arch enemy a dose of his super stare. Now there's 1,000 souls inside him ready to burn out and stuff. And we end with Johnny refusing to give up the powers of the demon spirit, what tends to make him a little hothead around bad guys. Mainly so he can still use it to fight evil and totally protect him and his new floozy against Satan himself.
Yeah, that's probably good, yeah.
And also so that the naughty schemer can't offer the crooked deal to any other poor naive sod. Which naturally pisses that Beelzebub fella off righty mightily. Whilst the newly reunited couple rekindle their romance under the same tree as they did when they were teens. The exact same one where he left her soaking in the rain and almost catching pneumonia for shits and giggles back in the day. And that's it, that's the movie. Though my favourite part, oh well, aside from that absurdly pointless scene of Carter just dipping out right after travelling all that way with him across the desert and what had no narrative impact other than being a cool visual set piece that's like a hilarious metaphor for the whole entire movie, was wondering what kind of awful unforgivable sins that poor lizard committed to totally warrant instant death by righteous fire. Though probably nothing as bad as the bigger lizards in human skin suits that currently populate the US Congress and other world institutions, I imagine. But anyway, that's the plot and that's your lot. Considering that bell thing so you don't miss any future recaps. Tell me if you like this flick in the comments if you have time, and I'll sell my soul just to get a date with Eva Mendes, hairy face mo or not, with you in the next one.